Hello, welcome to natemareflix. I am Nate, you are you, and I just picked up my copy of Scream 5, Scream 2022, whatever you want to call it. I love this film. I had to add it to the collection just for completion's sake, if nothing else, and I'm going to be watching this in the next couple days. But picking it up made me realize I got to give y'all my franchise ranking like I've been talking about doing for a while. But on top of that, I wanted to do something nice for you guys for watching me and supporting this channel. If you're a subscriber, or if you're not, go ahead and hit subscribe. And if you want the digital code, go ahead, hit subscribe, go to the comment section, let me know you are subscribed, and let me know you'd like to be entered. I'll put you in the Jason O'Lantern and pick a name at random and let you know if you have won the code in the coming days. And then also, if that's not enough reason to get you to hit subscribe, guys, we are less than a year away from Scream 6. That is right, it is official. We have less than 365 days until we get another Scream movie, and I got some ideas. I got 6 big ideas for Scream 6, so go ahead and subscribe so you do not miss that. But now, it's time to talk about the movie franchise as a whole and how I see things from bottom to top. Here we go, this is my franchise ranking for Scream. Yes, Scream 4 is in last place, but something had to be. I still really enjoy this movie, but it is last for me because even though I loved it when it first came out, and at that time I would have told you this may be my second favorite Scream movie, since then, with rewatch after rewatch, the luster has really rubbed off, and I notice more and more things that just don't quite work for me. One, the movie just doesn't even look like the other films. It seems disparate and like the black sheep of the family because they've done this weird effect on it to where there's a strange sheen. It's like the whole movie is overexposed and the color gradient is all off. I mean, it's wiggity whack and it throws me off every single time I watch it. And then there's a criminal lack of Dewey Riley, who, of all the legacy players, he truly is like the beating heart. So the fact that he's in the movie, but yet not really in the movie, that is a big problem for me. You look at the killers, I love Jill. She is one of my most beloved Ghostface. I have a ranking of all of the Ghostface killers. Go check that out if you want to hear me wax poetic about Jill and see where she falls in the greater scheme of things. But that being said, her counterpart, Charlie, not so much. He's not very memorable to me. He never has been. He's never stuck out, even though he has a high body count. He has a good resume for a Ghostface killer. Just kind of weak sauce. At the end of the day, he's essentially just a simp who couldn't get with Kirby, and now he's trying to get with Jill and do whatever to make her happy, and he's just a puppet. I don't know, he doesn't work for me in that sense. The opening bit is the weakest intro to any of the Scream films. So I love Jill. I love the third act. It is cuckoo, banana, batshit crazy, and I love seeing Jill go completely berserk and maim herself. That is hilarious. It's dark. It works. It feels like it's a send up to the original. And of course, I love Sydney. I love Gale. I love Dewey for the little bit that I have him in this. But a lot of stuff in this movie is obvious. It's the least humorous of the films, if you ask me. And aside from the kill of Olivia, which is fantastic, a real highlight as far as kills are concerned in this franchise, none of the other kills really stand out to me. So that is why this movie is going to be my last place. In fourth is Scream 3, a movie I thought would never get out of my doghouse, but upon my most recent watch, I really enjoyed watching this. Me and my girlfriend had a great time. We were laughing our butts off at points, and you know what? I think that's okay. Scream has always had a sort of goofy element to it, and this one has that in spades. I mean, this movie is probably the most campy of any of them, and when you binge these, that actually is a little bit refreshing. I do wish it was a bloodier film. I wish there was more gore and carnage candy, but this movie came post Columbine, and so the censors weren't gonna have it. You know, it was a very sensitive era. And so looking back at that, I can sort of give it a pass for that. Now, when I first saw the film, I hated the inclusion of Roman. It felt like a soap opera to have him be like this half sibling to Sydney, and to know that he had some sort of relation to anything that happened in the first film. I really hated that. I don't blame anybody who does. But now I've had time to sit with it. I have digested it fully over the years, and now I can give Roman some proper credit. Because the third act of this movie is really amusing, and it's really awesome to see these siblings get the better of each other. They have very similar tactics and tricks, and they just take turns getting the upper hand on one another, and it is a great little face-off. Also in that third act though, you have this really cool setting of that mansion where you have this creepy producer who had these sort of like hidden passageways and these like maze-like corridors, and it just adds another wrinkle to things. You don't know how much peril a character could be in at any given point. And speaking of the creepy producer, these movies were produced by the Weinsteins. So at the time that I saw the movie, I wasn't picking up on some of the commentary or maybe the little cry for help that Wes Craven was giving us. But now knowing all that we know in the post-Me Too movement, watching this movie, you're like, oh, Wes, good on you, buddy. Good on you. I can only imagine the things you heard rumored and whispered about, and I feel like you're trying to bring it to the forefront and let us fans know. So that is another little thing to look for with Scream 3. And then lastly, another reason to love this movie, I feel like it is a nice little bow on the arc of Sidney Prescott, who for my money is the greatest final girl of all time, and this really puts the nail in the coffin on that debate for me. Because you've seen her go from a girl who has lost everything. She has lost her mother, she's lost countless friends. The boy she gave her virginity to turned out to be the culprit behind all of that. And now she's going up against her half-brother. She's this woman who is just tortured and traumatized and doesn't feel like she can have any sort of positivity or joy in her life. She's living in seclusion at the opening of the movie, and by the end, she's able to go sit down with her support system, take in a movie, and leave the door wide open. I just think that's beautiful. And number 3, it's Scream 2. This movie has a really cool opening at the theater at the premiere of the Stab movie. Of course, that's intensely meta, and I love it for that. But also, I love it because I've never really loved Jada Pinkett Smith, and given recent events, that opening is even more entertaining. But of course, the best part of this movie is all of the discussion and dissection of sequels and this argument that by nature they are inferior films to the original. And then you could be like, no, you know what? I disagree. Here is a list of films that were better than the predecessor. That's really amusing, and I love that classroom scene, but that classroom scene has layers. It is so great because you have this character that we know and love in Randy. He is our cinephile, he is our horror nerd geek that we relate to as the horror movie audience. And in the first film, he knew more than anybody. He gave us all the rules. And so he thinks he knows more than everybody, but in this moment, he misquotes aliens and he's correcting people, and Mickey was right all along. So some people see that as a blooper, but I actually think you can look at that and be like, oh, this is actually symbolic of the relationship between Mickey and Randy, and that there's more than we need to be on to Mickey, because there's more than meets the eye with this guy. And I love Mickey Altieri. I love the performance of Timothy Olyphant. He's a little bit like Stu and Billy married into one being, and I am definitely here for that. So why is this only number 3 and not number 2 for me like it is for most people? The pacing of the film, there is a little bit where it starts to drag. There's a section of this film that I always find myself kind of being like, okay, checking the watch. That's never a good thing with a horror film. And then also the campus setting. I didn't think it worked with Halloween H2O, and this is very similar in that this is a school setting on an overly lit California campus, and there's just no horror in that for me. I do not enjoy it at all. And that may seem like a small or weird gripe to some people, but really, the setting is huge for a horror film, and it just kind of bugs me, especially when we get into the stuff where Sydney's on the stage and we have the set design falling apart and she's seeing things. It's never really worked for me completely, and that is why this is at number 3. The runner-up, it's the new one, Scream 2022. And this may seem like high praise to some, but I really did love this movie. This blew away my expectations. I love the new characters, and I love seeing them be balanced and bounce off of the legacy players. I love the way the legacy players were employed here, and I'm glad that one of them died, even though it ripped my heart out of my chest, showed it to me, and then stomped all over it and ground its heel into it, leaving my heart nothing but a bloody little pulp on the floor. It needed to happen. That's part of the weaknesses of Scream 4, is that there weren't any stakes. We were this far into a slasher series, and yet the key 3 remained unnamed. Nobody was dead yet, and that needed to happen in order to make you feel like anything can happen. And here it does happen with the pre-described heart of the big 3, of the big legacy players, Dewey, Riley. And it was done phenomenally, because it was done in a way that bolstered the ghost face of the film and made them feel terrifying and insanely capable and like one of the most lethal ghost face to date. But it was also a very heartfelt send-off to one of the most beloved characters in the entire franchise. I love the way this movie skewers the current scape of horror, the way it takes on elevated horror, the way it takes on pretentious folks who go on YouTube and talk about horror films ad nauseum and give all their hot takes and opinions. Wait a second. Yeah, exactly. It's talking about me. I saw myself in this movie and I got one. You know what I mean? It delivered a blow and I just had to take it and laugh and chuckle and be like, yeah, that's exactly what's going on in modern day. This film is topical. I love the way it really took to task films like Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills and reboot holes in general. I mentioned the Dewey death, but the kill of the West character, that got me too. The way that knife is sunk into him and it lingers and it starts to go deeper and deeper and starts to pull up. I didn't know what we were about to see and it had me tense, it had me gripping my seat. There are multiple moments in this film like that. And yes, the killers are a little bit obvious, but it doesn't matter to me because I still enjoyed them so much. And by the third act, I was just having the time of my life. This film, it was revelatory for me because I was getting a little bit cold, a little bit cynical about my most beloved horror genre because I was so let down by films like Halloween Kills, and this just brought back all the passion, all the good feels, and I cannot wait for more Scream because of movies like this one right here. And number one, you already know what it is. Scream 1996 is not just my favorite of this amazing franchise, it's my favorite horror movie of all time, no holds barred. You wanna know why? It's because that opening sequence, that's my favorite intro to any horror movie. Talk about Sidney Prescott, that's my favorite final girl of all time. Maybe my favorite horror character of all time. You talk about Ghostface, an amazing killer who felt original and terrifying and smart and masterminding and cunning and has this just iconic voice work done by Roger L. Jackson. You have this meta-analysis that just skewered horror films and their tropes and talked about them the way us, the audience, always had. You have a final act that's my favorite final act, my favorite killer reveal of all time. You have Matthew Lillard as Stu just being mesmerizing and making these quotes left and right that are just instantly iconic and we all repeat ad nauseum. There's just so much magic in Scream 1996. And for a horror fan, even if you don't like the movie, you gotta respect it. You gotta show it some love because at this point, horror was very, very tired. This thing had been hamstrung. This genre was just limping along until it collapsed and it was on its back. Death rattle was coming in, and then Wes Craven came along with this movie, got down, breathed some fresh life into those lungs, resuscitated the genre, and things were never the same. Because of this film, I'm a huge fan of horror. Because of this film, this is my favorite of the franchise. This is my favorite horror movie. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit subscribe. Go ahead and hit like, comment your ranking. I want to talk about it with you fine folks down in the comment section. But other than that, I hope you have a fantastic day. I'm Nate for natemareflix saying, that's a wrap.